Grinning Bard Press, LLC, presents Tales of the Bard. Devaultus Was Here, by J.A. Roggie. Chapter 1. Welcome to the multiverse, baby. The forest was quiet, not the anxious pin-drop silence of a battlefield waiting to bloom, but the kind of peace that only comes from untouched wilderness doing its thing. Leaves rustled in lazy conversation above, birds trilled half-hearted solos from the canopy, and somewhere in the distance a branch creaked like an arthritic old man rolling over in bed. Then the sky had the audacity to tear. Reality hiccuped, and a swirling orb clawed its way into existence with a bone-deep hum that made the forest hesitate. Birds took flight, and space folded around it. Sparks cracked at the edges, and then pop. A hand tore through, fingers splayed, grasping blindly like a drowning man reaching for air. Then came the head. Then the torso. Then the rest of him flopping out of the rift like a cat tossed from a carriage window. He landed with a spectacular thud, face first into a mat of soggy leaves, arms splayed like he'd just been tossed out by fate herself. "Bloody hell," came the muffled complaint from the undergrowth. That was not the entrance I had rehearsed. I was picturing something a bit more, what's the word, dashing? A little hop, maybe a superhero landing. "Hello world, I'm here." Majestic as can be, and dangerous to boot. But no, it's mud in the teeth and moss in the crack. Grand. Groaning, he pushed himself up, shaking dirt and pine needles from his coat with the annoyed look of a man wronged by the universe. Behind him, the portal still churned, hungry and pissed. A thick, meaty arm punched through the vortex, veins bulging, muscles flexing like it had bench-pressed gods. It swung wide, fingers flailing for purchase, as if it could snatch him back into the swirling maelstrom by sheer will. Devaultus tilted his head, then stepped aside with an almost mocking little flourish. He let the hand swipe at empty air. Again and again, a dance partner with no rhythm. "Tenacious little bastard, aren't you?" he said dryly, batting at the arm like one might shoo away a drunken patron at one of those seedy joints. Dropping to a crouch, he began fiddling with a ring on his finger, spinning it, tapping it, muttering under his breath like a man trying to disable a bomb with a spoon. Come on, there's gotta be a kill switch on this cursed thing. Blink twice for portal closed. He gave his wrist a final shake. Slop. The portal fizzled like a dying candle and collapsed in on itself with a sucking sound that rattled the birds out of nearby trees. What remained behind was not just silence, but a thump. A twitching, blood-slicked arm hit the dirt, severed clean at the shoulder. Dwarven, judging by the size and hair density, like someone had dipped a ham hock in testosterone and rage. The thing flexed once, spasmed twice, then went limp. Devaultus wrinkled his nose, nudged it with the toe of his boot. "Bit clingy," he murmured, watching the stump ooze. "Some people just can't take rejection." He straightened up, stretching his arms as he finally took in his surroundings properly. Dense trees, cold air, a faint scent of moss and loam clinging to everything. Well, wherever this is, it's about to get a surprise. His dark, tousled hair clung to his forehead, matted with sweat and the arcane slime left behind by portal travel, a residue that shimmered faintly like someone had sneezed magic into his scalp. His face, all sharp lines and sharper intentions, bore a few days' worth of stubble and just enough smirk to suggest he either knew a secret or was the secret. His coat, jet black, battle-worn, cinched at the waist, flowed around him like it had a mind of its own. Beneath it, layers of leather, dyed in imperial purples and near-black blues, clung to his frame like a second skin. Crisscrossing his chest and hips were belts of all shapes and sizes, each serving a different purpose. Some held knives, others glass vials filled with unspeakable things. One definitely had teeth strung along it like trophies. "Well, isn't this a charming little planet?" he murmured, voice low, words dripping with amused cynicism. He looked up, squinting through the thick canopy at the towering trees that surrounded him. They had bark like rusted iron and limbs like skeletal arms clawing at the heavens in either reverence or rebellion. Their sheer size dwarfed anything he could remember. He thought he had seen trees like these once before, or maybe he dreamed it, it was hard to say, but he didn't believe they were this big. Either way, there had been a tunnel, definitely some dwarves, an argument about mushrooms and explosives, and something about fermented goat's milk. Honestly, most of his last escapade had been a blur of torchlight and grumbling beards. The memories were a jumbled mess. He sniffed the air. Wood, moss, and blessedly no scent of dwarven armpit. Already a better start. He took a step, paused and glanced down. The ground beneath his boots gave way like a sponge, soft and springy. He bounced on his heels experimentally. "Oh ho, it's like walking on a bakery sponge cake," he chuckled, doing a little hop. A bit of bounce in the boots never hurt anyone. With a devil-may-care grin plastered across his face, he sauntered deeper into the dense woodland, his gaze twitching to every rustle, every whisper, every breath of the forest, like a man perpetually 2 steps ahead of trouble and 3 steps behind caring. His hands hovered near his hips, fingers twitching. Once, twice, his daggers sprang into his hands in a blur of movement, only for him to realize he'd nearly gutted a horned forest beast, a bit larger than a dog. It bellowed past him, snorting and stomping through the underbrush like a drunk with an agenda. "Subtle, aren't you?" he muttered. "I see nature here prefers dramatic entrances. My kind of place." Then he stopped. Mid-step, his breath caught and muscles stilled. A sound that was wrong and out of place. Was it mechanical? Perhaps a bit melodic? Maybe it was a bit of both. He pieced together a bit of buzzing like a swarm of bees filled with other noises. Noises that were off to him. He crept forward, slow and deliberate, slipping through the last line of trees like a shadow. And there it was. The city. It was massive, a huge tower that reached the skies like something he had never seen. The buildings were made from something strange. It looked like stone, but it was off. Not right. He froze, eyes narrowing, instincts coiling like a snake. "Lovely," he whispered, voice a mix of reverence and caution. "Please let this not be full of bastards I've already pissed off." He scanned the horizon like a man expecting consequences, more than the arm. Oh, Forfalug Iceforged would be frothing at the mouth over that little souvenir. Dwarves didn't take kindly to being disarmed, literally or figuratively, but that was the least of the issues. That ring. That cursed, brilliant bastard of a ring. It had been the only thing keeping Devaultus 2 steps ahead of a very angry, very hairy king. That and those crystalline nightmares. The Cornix. He shivered in spite of himself. Insectoid horrors, tall as nightmares, with shimmering skin like cracked gemstones. Their blood, thick, slow, and as black as the bottom of the sea, oozed like tar when he opened them up. The sound of their limbs clicking together was enough to make your bones want to leave your body without permission. Like ice snapping under your boots on a frozen lake. Untrustworthy. Fatal. And he'd heard that sound far too often. Still, the grin returned. He'd bled them, plenty of them, and gods did their blood look good on his blades. The Cornix had evolved in realms steeped in pure, uncut magic, so saturated that it warped time like heat on metal. To them, time was a shattered mirror. They saw moments out of order, past and future tangled like vines. Talk to one, and you'd feel like you'd stepped into a puzzle made of broken glass. It would seem they had acquired a knack for crafting, but they were insufferable at parties, especially when they caught a whiff of something valuable, like the ring now resting on Devaultus's finger. He'd heard stories about it, tales traded in smoky taverns and whispered under threat of death. The dwarves had forged the metal, a substance as cold and stubborn as frozen obsidian, impossible to break. But the gem, that was pure Cornic's work, flawless, eerie, and humming with time-sick energy. Together they'd created something that shouldn't exist, a portal ring, a device capable of opening rips between worlds and maybe, just maybe, twisting time itself. Not that Devaultus had any clue how to actually use it. He'd pressed it a few times, muttered a curse, and poof. New world, new mess. That was his signature move. He didn't need to understand things. Understanding was for scholars and cowards. He just needed things to work. And they usually did. Until they didn't. He'd robbed enough from dwarves and Cornics alike to finance an empire, if owning an empire hadn't sounded so damn boring. But this world, it felt different. He'd plane hopped through realms soaked in mana and ones dry as a lich's sense of humor. But none of them had ever felt like this, and the strangest part, he felt a bit out of place, like he was the anomaly, which said something, considering he was always the anomaly. Magic? Pfft. He didn't need it. He was the storm. His chaos wasn't conjured, it was cultivated. It followed him, clung to him, bloomed in his wake like wildflowers, sown once and then suddenly they began to sprout up all around him. Well, no time like the present, Devaultus muttered, a crooked smirk tugging at his lips. He strolled toward the city ahead, sharp eyes scanning everything with a predator's poise. Every footstep echoed like a drumbeat of incoming trouble. The people here, they were weird, not in a monstrous way. He could handle monsters. No, they were off in a civilized way, like someone had rolled a nat 20 on fashion nonsense. The men wore tunics, sort of, but they were flimsy things, stitched with strange symbols or images. Not coats of arms or guild sigils, but nonsense graphics, cartoon mascots, band names, abstract art. Some even glowed faintly in the right light. Beneath, their pants were stitched from some rugged cloth that was oddly stiff, like cured hide but more forgiving. Some hems were torn, others carefully frayed, intentionally, like they'd paid someone to ruin their clothing. It was functionless style, and yet it worked. Somehow. And the women? Hells, the women dressed like they were trying to confuse him on purpose. Their tops clung to their forms, paper-thin and sleeveless, clearly designed to showcase, not shield. Their skirts were laughably short, or replaced entirely with bizarre leg sleeves that hugged every curve, leaving little to mystery and even less to defense. Footwear ranged from giant pillowy monstrosities to shoes so delicate they looked afraid of gravel. Devaultus had wandered through dreamscapes and demon realms, but this was the first time he felt culturally outgunned. And their faces, they were way too relaxed. They had no tight jaws, their eyes not darting or searching for danger, no sense of threat around the edges. These people hadn't smelled war. They didn't brace for knife fights when someone bumped into them. It wasn't peacefulness, it was obliviousness. A society that had never stared into the abyss and had it wink back. It was a different kind of chaos, one he didn't quite understand, which made it kind of beautiful and dangerous. The tale continues. Next week on Tales of the Bard. If you'd like to read the whole book ahead of time, join the mailing list below or purchase the book on Amazon or wherever ebooks or physical books are sold.